everyone, welcome back to my... No, not everyone, we're Plutonians now, sorry. Hello, my fellow Plutonians, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the very first episode of my brand new podcast. Before I forget, I do want to give a shout out to a subscriber or a viewer, I'm not sure if they're subscribed, who actually suggested the word Plutonian. I would not have thought about it before. I believe you pronounce their name as M-Cheetah or Muk-Cheetah, I'm not sure, but thank you so much for your suggestion because it's the one that I actually ended up going with. So, of course, you can see here that I am not alone and I have a co-host, as I stated in my last video. You want to introduce yourself or should I do it?
You introduce me.
This is Zach, my co-host not only for the podcast, but he also happens to be my co-host in life. So
that's the one you went with. Oh gosh.
So before you close out and say, ew, I hate couple podcasts, it's not gonna be that way. I'm not a PDA person. We're not gonna shove it in your faces that we're a couple. We're just co-hosts for the purpose of this podcast. It's very convenient. We're very like-minded and we live together. So it makes sense. Zach is actually very important and integral to my YouTube journey because he encouraged me. He was and still is, my number one fan. And he really encouraged me to start last year when I was at a difficult spot in terms of being really disenchanted with my career. And so he was, he's the one who likes all my videos first and watches all my videos, and he's my number one fan. And I'm really happy that he's agreed to join me on this new venture. And I hope you guys get to know each other. And yeah, it could be the start of something great.
I mean, it's like, who would say no to sitting down with someone and just chatting with them, especially if it's someone they like, especially if it's someone that they like enough to live with. So, it's like...
Well, I'm glad you like me.
Well, I'm trying not to make it lovey-dovey.
I know,
okay?
I know. Zach's more the romantic. I'm the ew feelings. No. So, of course, initially the plan for this episode was not going to be centered on the appeal, on Johnny's appeal, because I didn't know whether the judgment was going to be out. But we all know now that on Thursday it was out. We all know the outcome, and it would be strange for me to just stick to my original plan, which was to focus on more of the Meghan Markle Oprah interview, because I've changed my mind entirely about her, by the way. And I couldn't just ignore the appeal. And it also makes sense because we're going to get into this later at some point, but Zach himself, I mean, would you say you were...
Well, as the old YouTube would say, because of censorship, I've had experience directly with SA from a woman. So, it hits home. Like the Johnny stuff, as much as we're in different hemispheres, when he loses something or when something doesn't work in his favor, I feel it really deep down. So, hearing the initial judgment and the appeal and all of that, it was horrendous because I know what it's like to be on the other side of that and to have essentially the world go, well, you're a man, so she can get away with it, which is, I don't need to tell you, not right.
All right, so like I said on my Patreon, and I believe I said so on Twitter as well, I won't be delving into the legal analysis aspect for the podcast because the purpose of this podcast is to be very laid back and to make it as though you're just sitting in with us in our living room and we're having a chat about meaningful topics. Not just, as I said, I'm not going to talk about gossip and drama. We're still going to talk about things that matter, but you'll get to hear the point of view of a male and someone else, someone with different life experiences, and most importantly, with regards to Johnny's case, someone who's lived it, someone who's actually been in a much smaller scale in terms of publicity in Johnny's shoes.
I mean, at the same time, there's also your own opinions, because I know that when you're doing your videos in your style, you're very much keeping to the facts and you remove your opinion from it as long as, whenever possible. So it's going to be interesting, I think, for some people to hear what you have to say about certain matters from your own personal beliefs.
Yeah, it's going to be a very different format. I know with my law videos, I sit down, I just give it to you straight, and I'm off. Like, bye. It's going to be different here. We're going to elaborate, we're going to expand, and you'll get to see more to me than just the lawyer spouting the law at you. So if you see me looking away at my laptop, it's just that I'm monitoring the gain. Zach is very soft-spoken, and I am a loud person, so I'm just concerned that his microphone isn't picking up as much. But I'm sure it's fine. I mean, he's an audio guru, so I
could hear it before. It's not much different to how you'd record, but as an audio guru, I am kind of proud of you that you're monitoring gain levels.
Having said that, I will continue with my usual video format as well, so I'm not just abandoning that style, and I will be making one dedicated to looking at the appeal judgment. Now, I have read it yesterday. It's actually really short, and I made notes, which I can refer to today, but again, I want to keep it at a general level discussion, not a legal analysis per se. Because of the fact that I'm a lawyer, a few tidbits will slip in here and then, but it's a back and forth. So you purposely haven't been completely in the loop when it comes to Johnny's case. Do you want to explain why you've kind of distanced yourself from the facts?
I mean, the short answer is it hurts. I physically feel it inside of me when he presents something that is so obviously evidence, yet you have obviously, being skeptical of things and understanding that, certain things will have multiple points of view with every piece of evidence. But when it's hard evidence, when it is actually proof and people just go, oh, but it's a woman, so you can get away with it. I've been there, and not just with one woman. I'm sure that, anyone could think of a time in the last month in their own lives where someone's gotten away with something just because they don't have something between their legs. And I don't think that has ever been right. And I know that people will say, yeah, but guys get away with things all the time. When it comes to a court of law, when it comes to how serious accusations of violence, of SA, of anything like that comes, it's as if we might as well not be represented. That's how it is. I can't think of, I hope someone can show me, but I can't think of off the top of my head one successful case against a woman that won. That wasn't about pedophilia. That wasn't clearly, a teacher taking advantage of a student. Just anything where it's like, okay, well, here is a fully grown male, an adult, and he took a woman to court and he won. I can't think of one. I hope someone can, shed light on that and be like, oh, there was this one case, and then I'll feel better about the world.
Yeah, no, there's definitely just a huge problem, and Johnny's actually the poster child. I mean, he's not a child, but he's the face of male victims of DV. Whether he likes it or not, and I've said this a lot of times, it's just undeniable that there is a huge problem in society. And by the way, when we say SA, in case anyone's not aware of what we mean, it's, well, the confidential allegations that Amber is making against Johnny that we're unaware of, that nature. So that word is SA. So I didn't know it a few days, like maybe a couple of weeks ago. That's why I'm just making sure everyone else is on board. So, I mean, you were there and you saw how I reacted when, not only on Thursday when he lost the appeal, but when he lost the actual trial.
Yeah. I remember thinking to myself, obviously, I was just sitting there, minding my business, and then hearing that, because I think a lot of people were surprised that such a well-presented case, because it could just be thrown out like that. But it just goes to show, well, especially with the judge, it's like, if you mention, an older man giving a younger woman, an extra leeway, well, we've all been there before. But I also remember the emergency text setup for the live stream you did as well. That was
Oh, yes. The live stream I did with Les and Shelby Sue and Stevie J. Raw. It was amazing. I had lots of fun. And Zach was actually my audio guy and my tech guy. And it's not that I don't know how to do it, but when it comes to audio in particular, because there were some connectivity issues, Zach saved the night that time. So you guys have him to thank for the fact that I was even involved.
Well, I mean, something that people learn about you very quickly is that you strive for independence. You don't want to be dependent on people. And so for the most part, it's hard for me to actually interject and be like, hey, just let me do the tech stuff. I can help, because you are essentially a one-woman show most of the time, except for the occasional thing where it's just a matter of, I guess I've just been, in the dredges of audio. Naturally with...
I wasn't even in the right headspace that night. I was so upset. This is the thing with this podcast, I guess you'll see the more human side of me, because I don't emote, especially when it comes to filming my videos. And I don't express my emotions in front of people. Zach will be the first to tell you that. But that night, behind the scenes, I was not distraught, but just incredibly angry and in shock. And I remember we were in the car on Thursday because it was late at night, not late, but late-ish, when the appeal decision came out. And I knew it, and which I will now delve into, because I did make mention, I believe, again on Twitter, that I saw this coming. I just didn't want to say it out loud. I saw it coming. So it wasn't as much of a shock, and it wasn't as much of a... I literally yelled out, no, 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 when he lost the initial trial. I was just like, no! I couldn't believe it. This time it was more like, no! Why did I have to be right? By the way... the cupcakes in the room, instead of saying the elephant in the room, I made these in kind of celebration of starting off this podcast, and Zach and I got greedy and ate 2 that are missing. So
I mean, is it greedy when you eat something fresh out of the oven?
I guess.
We had to know they were good.
Yeah, that's true. Taste test. I felt weird making them after Johnny's loss, but then we just decided it's still something to celebrate, starting off this new venture. And who's going to say no to cupcakes, right? I mean, I don't know. Not many people.
I mean, it's going to be really hard to make sure there are still cupcakes on there after this podcast.
Oh, I don't know. I'll get sick of all that frosting.
Oh, I knew that. I was talking about me.
Right. So, the appeal. So, I saw it coming based off the 2-hour hearing. I watched it live, and again, it's something that Zach was in the background, aware of what's going on, but maintaining a distance because it gets to you too much.
Yeah, both ears in. It is always hard to hear. Again, it's as if it's happening to me. And I just can't. The only way I can get away from it is by not listening.
Yeah. So, a lot of you on Patreon, because I was not on Twitter at that time, expressed to me that you felt bad about it. And you were asking me how I felt. And in my video that I made summarizing what happened, I told you that I didn't know what was going to happen, which is the truth. You never know. Sometimes you can have a bad feeling and you're wrong. But unfortunately, this wasn't one of those times. So I really had a sense of dread as I watched the hearing and listened to the judge's questions. I could tell from their questions they weren't convinced. And Mr. Caldecott, as I said in my other video, he tried his best. This is Johnny's barrister. He tried his best. He really did. He was quick on his feet. And as I said, he's a QC. He's Queen's Counsel. He knows what he's doing. But it just seems that the British legal system is not willing to accept the censorship. Not censorship. It's not even censorship. But putting their tabloids in line. Do you think that it's part of free speech for tabloids to be able to say whatever they want?
Absolutely not. I think that it's probably a lot of, and I have no proof for this, obviously, but one can imagine that we've learned a lot about the relationship between, say, the royal family and the tabloids recently. And there's obviously a lot of handshakes and a lot of under the table deals and agreements that happen. And so, yeah, while the press have always had too much power on this side of things, I think this is the good thing about social media and YouTube and the platforms that now we have. Most people shouldn't be getting their information from, here in Australia, 5 sources. We have 5 free-to-air channels, and if you were only getting your information from them, 3 of them are absolute garbage. My own personal opinion. I won't say which ones, but if any of you are Australian, you can probably guess which ones I'm referring to. And I wouldn't, if someone paid me to watch them, I wouldn't watch them. If you're getting your information from those sorts of things, then, well, you wouldn't be watching this podcast probably. But it's a monopoly. Well, it used to be a monopoly, and with the decline of TV and the decline of tabloids and magazines, the last time I was in a supermarket and I didn't roll my eyes at seeing something written on a magazine was... it's never happened. It's never happened where I walked in and went, hey, that's something I wanted to know.
Yeah.
But there are still people buying them. There are still people getting their information. As long as the people are giving them money, and as long as you have an institution set up, I guess, before the turn of the century, how do you take down the media? How do you stop them from lying and cheating their way out of anything? I think part of the problem is that we speak about the media on a broad sense. We don't talk about the media as one person or a group of people. The reason it's easy for people to attack celebrities is because that's an individual. But the media, well, where do you start?
Yeah.
Do you start with a publication? Do you start with a channel? That's a very long-winded way of saying until we dethrone them, they will always have too much power.
And then the problem is they will scream and shout freedom of expression if you ever try to fight back. Which
is what a very similar thing that happens when you tell people they're being racist, or when you tell people they're being sexist. And, we see it where people go, well, should you say that racist slur? And then someone who, whether they just want to say whatever they want or whether they actually believe they're racist superior, I'm thinking, well, actually I shouldn't point fingers, but everyone knows that person who's a little too racist, and as soon as you said, hey, how dare you, they would point to a constitution.
Yeah. And
it would be that's the end of the argument. Well, where's the line between free speech and allowing people to lie?
Yeah, exactly. That's why defamation laws exist. And so it's almost like there's no point in having defamation laws. Because maybe there's a point if a private individual defames you. But as soon as it's a media outlet, then basically this case can be used as an example of, well, the media succeeded in this case, why shouldn't the rest of the cases fail in the future? So basically, why can't other, it's basically going to set this dangerous precedent of defamation claims are bound to fail. Because how in the law, precedent is set in common law in the UK, here in Australia as well. Old cases determine how newer cases are decided. And can you imagine how many other subsidiaries of not just NGN, but Associated Newspapers, all of these tabloids will keep referring to Depp versus NGN as precedent for why the media should win. This is the problem, and Johnny's team have actually made this point very clear to the Court of Appeal, which they rejected, which is accepting this outcome will damage not just Johnny. The blast radius, I suppose, is going to be global. Or let's maybe not be dramatic, it's the entirety of the UK, which is bound by the law in the UK. So,
which is still too much. The fact that a country, you statistically, by being in the UK, will have less of a chance of winning a defamation claim against the media just because of a corrupt judge.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that people aren't saying corrupt, but
we don't know. Allegedly, we don't know that he's corrupt. You guys know I made a video about that. In terms of his friendships with the lawyers involved, I explained multiple times that legal circles can be quite small, and it's not out of the norm for a judge to be friendly with barristers, and maybe when he was back in his barrister days, they used to work together. So that's not enough, and I went through the guidelines with everyone. So basically, it's not abnormal to have some kind of a friendship, but people are alleging that his son worked. Well, not alleging. Proof came out that his own son worked kind of as a guest contributor, not a full-time employee of NGN, which is the defendant. And so some people are arguing, well, of course, that's a bias because he'd be worried about his son's future, about the career. If his son loses his job with NGN, a huge corporation, then how can he guarantee that his son will get another job in the media? You know what I mean? So, but all of this is still, it's not solid. And I think the issue that I have with people's insistence that Mr. Justice Nicol is biased is the fact that Johnny's team never brought it up. So they may have known about these connections, and I keep telling people that, and they may have decided to proceed regardless, which of course will raise a lot of issues in the future if they decide to bring this up. So, he's biased. Well, you knew he was, though. Why didn't you bring it up earlier before the trial?
The irony is that the way to uncover a bias or someone so high up would be an investigative journalist. Which there are way too few of, because we have, again, NGN and other medias portraying themselves as investigative journalists. I mean,
it's the biggest joke.
A current affairs investigation, 60 Minutes investigation. Yeah. It's like, okay.
60 Minutes did a horrible piece on Johnny and Amber.
And that's just it. And why did they do that? That's not an investigation. You probably went on the internet. You probably looked up all your sources, and it's just, it blows my mind. But that's the irony of it, is that we need investigative journalists to investigate the very people that should be employing investigative journalists, the people that should be finding stories and shouldn't be silencing stories just because of whether they fall on the side of a government or because, I don't know, a government doesn't want information getting out. For whatever reason, we find ourselves in a situation where, what we see on free-to-air TV is diluted. I
mean, there's even this personal experience I had recently. A lot of you will already know about this. Zach knows. It's that article, the reporter who... Yeah. I'm just going to give you a really simple example of how these reporters outright lie, even about things like age and nationality.
Can I have a cupcake while you tell the story?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, and by the way, whenever one of us eats, we're going to mute the mic. We're not about that chewing sound, so don't worry about that. Let me just get a plate.
Yeah, mouth sounds are weird.
One of those leftover Halloween plates from last year?
That was good. That was a lovely party. I wish we could do that.
Oh, yeah, I actually shared those photos on Twitter, so they know about it. When I was the Mad Hatter. What was I saying? I forgot.
You were...
Oh, yeah, the article.
Yeah.
In that, I'm not going to link it. I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to name the reporter. If you know, you know. I don't want to give her and her article any more exposure. But she assumed. So she said a U.S. lawyer based in Australia. When did I ever say that I was an American citizen? You can scour the entirety of the internet, and you will never catch me once saying that I'm a citizen of the U.S. simply because I'm not.
Investigative journalists, everyone.
And she just put it out. She never asked me, where are you from? She did say, oh, so are you from Australia or did you live? And I responded with, I live there. Never once saying, no, I'm a U.S. citizen, but I now live in Australia. So she entirely made that up. And she just put it out there in her article willy-nilly, like it's fact. And everyone out there who doesn't know anything about me, because I do keep everything about me private as far as possible, will assume I'm this American person living in Australia. I'm not American. quite frankly, it's no one's business what my background is. All you need to know is I live in Australia. Clearly, I serve in the Australian Army, which means I'm an Australian citizen for all intents and purposes. And that's all you need to know. But to go out there and lie. So something so stupid and small. Imagine what else these reporters make up. And then people who read these things just take it in as fact. So it's ridiculous. They don't even bother fact checking stupid things like where someone's from and how old they are. So anyways, I opened up my notes that I made on the judgment, the appeal judgment. And again, I'm not going to do this in detail, but I just want to talk about a few things. They really focused on this concept of both. This is actually a really good point to bring up. The Court of Appeal basically went along the lines of, what if both Johnny and Amber mistreated each other? So what if they were both perpetrators? That wouldn't make her allegations or not her, NGN's allegations defamatory, because just because the two of them were bad, that doesn't mean that Amber's allegations were not true. So what do you think of that?
I think the fact that we're even considering the fact that one party presented evidence and the other party presented nothing, or whatever they presented could easily be dismissed and thrown out, and the only reason that we are even making this decision is based on gender, is, I think it's absurd. Because you know what, if it was the other way around, we wouldn't bat an eyelid before throwing someone behind bars if it was a criminal case, or before throwing the case out. The only reason it's really gone on for this long is because of the way the genders are. So, if it was a man mistreating a woman, then we wouldn't bat an eyelid, throw them in jail. That's the end of it. See you later. Obviously, this is a defamation case, not a criminal case.
Yeah.
But as soon as we switch the roles, suddenly we're, again, looking for scapegoats. Because she's a woman. For no other reason than because she's a woman.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. It really is. It again, makes me burn inside. It's hard to
You've
not get
actually
angry.
fared better than Johnny. We will get into a brief discussion about what Zach was involved in as a victim of a female perpetrator. He actually, his situation was actually better than Johnny. That's how bad Johnny's situation is. Because in your part, at least, the police really did, they took action against her. But you make an excellent point. It's almost like they're grasping at straws.
Yes.
They just refuse to accept the possibility that a man did nothing in terms of physical mistreatment, as she alleges. To them, it's impossible to think of a gentleman who would not lay a finger on his wife. It has to be, oh, well, you both must have done it. It's either you did it, Johnny, or the two of you did it.
It can't just be her. And to quote you, I will also say, let me just filter it out in my head first. You've often said that verbal mistreatment can be just as bad, and in some cases worse, than physical mistreatment.
Emotional, yeah.
Emotional. Which I entirely agree with. I think that the psychological impacts of what some people will do to manipulate others, whether it be in a relationship or friendships or in the business world or wherever it is, there are psychological traumas that can... It's hard, someone who hasn't been a victim or hasn't seen it with their own two eyes might think it's a little far-fetched, but psychological trauma is a serious thing.
Absolutely. And so just to clarify, I noticed that people put physical mistreatment on the topmost along with sexual, and then they kind of downplay emotional and psychological mistreatment. And I've been subjected to psychological mistreatment, and growing up, for example, I was disciplined physically, not not in any way that's criminal, but you know.
If you're a 90s kid or the 80s, you know, the usual.
We're 90s. We're 90s children, and back in the day, your parents could kind of, you know, put you back in line without it being criminal. Now, of course, I'm not condoning physically mistreating your child. I'm just saying that, you know, a little spank, you know, you can't, in my opinion, maybe everyone's got different parenting styles. We're not parents. We have no plans on being parents.
Thank goodness.
But we love our parents. We don't feel that we've been mistreated by them, if you catch my drift, simply because they've decided to discipline us every once in a while, especially in our younger years. So my point being, I've experienced both forms of mistreatment, and I know that one of them, psychological, can be even worse than the physical. I'm not saying that it's always worse. I'm just saying that I think they are subjective. And some people may think that physical is just, that's it. That's the line. That's what's unacceptable. To me, psychological is on the same par. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
I think psychological is the norm. I think that if you actually look at, and see, this is the thing, if you could measure psychological mistreatment, you would find that, you know,
I feel like it's more long-lasting.
It's not just long-lasting, but who would be the statistical perpetrator? It would, at the very least, be down the middle. And where we look at...
Oh, you mean it's more gender balanced?
I'm saying down the middle because I don't have any numbers to back it up, and because obviously I don't want to draw a line, or you know, because everyone at some point has been a victim of this from both sides. But you know, when we talk about that, it's as if we just let that slide.
You're saying it's being normalized.
It's being normalized. It is normalized. It's hidden. Because it often happens in at home, but you know, then if we're looking at that, we also see that, okay, well, if they're equally guilty, why are they not equally treated? And then we come back to physical, and it's like, well, if they're equally guilty, why are they not equally treated? At the end of the day, it kind of puts a hole in the thought of, okay, well, you know, men rule the world when it comes to, as soon as you hit the courtroom, they don't.
Yeah.
As soon as you look at a man and he's the victim, suddenly, oh, he's tough. He should just take it. Oh, you know what? He should just, you know, brush it off. I mean, even as far as in my particular situation, you know, someone that I would consider close at the time telling me it was my fault.
And he was much older. This man was like he's like 13, 14 years older than us. And
the first person
he was someone you went to for guidance.
Yeah, he was the first person I went to after the incident, and I was told it was my fault.
Yeah.
Where would you tell a woman that?
Well, people do. I will be fair.
Oh, of course.
Look what she's wearing. Look where she's walking.
But it's quite like that is seen as a horrible thing to do.
To say to a woman.
But then if you say it to a man, whatever, he's a man, he can take it. Why should men have to put up with any sort of mistreatment? Why? Because I don't think anyone should. I think that should be a global standard. Don't mistreat people.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the court of law in different countries sees that differently.
Yeah, and I also want to make one more point just to clear myself up, because I know the internet can really take something and run with it. There are levels of physical mistreatment that do take the cake. Yes. You know what I mean? They are the worst of the worst.
We're not talking about the extreme.
We're not talking about the extreme. Absolutely.
Because they would no doubt be criminal. Although I will say that, you know, Jodi Arias, that was a case, wasn't it?
Jodi Arias, yeah, but she got what was coming to her.
She did, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm sure
and she had a female judge.
Well, it's
worth noting, she had a female judge.
Well, I wonder what would happen. I wonder if she would be free today if she had a male judge.
I really do wonder that myself, because I said this in my last video, the video where I announced the podcast. I said, you know, the fact that a female judge has now been appointed to the Virginia case might be a good thing, because females are onto each other, especially middle-aged women. They, I don't don't know. I feel like they're onto each other. They're very clued in when it comes to other women.
They've wisened up.
Yeah, absolutely. And we females have this bullshit detector with each other. Things that a man would not see, and a girl's like, how could you not see that? It happens a lot with us.
We've had that before. I count it as a blessing that I have you to guide me through the sea of people just looking to take advantage of you.
Well, for me, to be fair, it's not just females. I
No,
don't
of course
single them
not.
out. I do kind of, I take after my dad in this regard. I do really do have a very, I suppose, accurate bullshit detector. No matter what the gender of the person is, I can suss people out pretty quick. And Zach is a very naive and trusting person. And I'm not. So I do find that I have to protect him in that way.
I was a naive and trusting person. I like to think I've made some development in the years since I've met you.
I don't know. Time will tell, I guess. I don't know.
I'd like to think I made some development, and then just this look of, well,
You're covering the lava lamp. I love the lava lamp. Maybe next time I'll put it somewhere else. I told him today when we were setting up, I was like, make sure the lava lamp is in the shot. Because I just love that thing. Anyways,
oh gosh.
what else? Let's look at my notes. So yeah, so that was their number one thing. And they made this in their judgment. They said in their judgment, it was, if anything, it was mutual. So it's official now. That's what they think.
I'd like to also add, the irony is that we say we live in a man's world. We say that men are in charge, and so basically that's when a male judge makes a judgment in favor of a woman who's clearly guilty, and he does it because he finds her attractive.
Should I just eat away from it? Maybe I'll just eat away from it, and I'll mute the camera. I'll mute the microphone if it's loud. It's not a problem.
It's 34 on the dot. The irony is that he doesn't see how that's further ruining, because he's setting the standard for that. I guess in the case of this Judge Nichols, referring back to the original judgment.
Yeah.
By being a man in power and making the wrong decision, which is clearly wrong by anyone who was following the case, let's say that one of his children was to be a victim by a woman.
Yeah.
He is indirectly sabotaged that case.
Mm-hmm.
So he is hoping that his son doesn't suffer the same thing for some sort of karma or fate that, that doesn't swing around and hit him right in the ass again. But, at the same time, it's hard. I can feel sorry for his son, but I certainly wouldn't feel sorry for him. He made his bed. So that's the unfortunate thing about that. But I guess we need to move on to the next note.
I do, after I get a napkin, because I'm a baby and I don't know how to eat. You ate it.
Where are the napkins?
Back there, I'll go get them.
That's the thing. When you're eating, when you're messy when you're eating, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Obviously, there's baby mess, but...
Do you want one too?
No, I'm good. I didn't actually manage. Yeah. Well, obviously, I wasn't enjoying it as much because if you don't make a mess, are you really enjoying it?
I don't know. It's yummy. I love frosting. I'm one of those blue on my lips.
Blue on your lips. Well, on your lips, mostly, kind of on the...
Where's my phone? I can use that as a mirror. Anyways, so yeah, that was the first point they made. Very disappointed at that. Oh, I see it. No, it's actually in my lips.
Okay,
I can't do anything about it.
No, that's fine. I think that...
I have a blue tongue now, and so do you. I just didn't tell you.
If you've made it 36 minutes into the podcast, you at least know why her mouth is blue.
Yeah. Let me put that away so it's not in the shot and
I'll
messy.
probably have another one.
You will?
I'll definitely have another one, yeah.
I'm all sugared out. Maybe I'll have another one later. I say that. I'm always like that. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to have another one. And then I always end up having another one. Okay, next point. So... Oh, this one I took great issue with. Now, I will have to give Zach the background because, as I said, he's kind of distanced himself from this. And let me just make a quick note of something as well while I'm here. So, in the middle of the trial, initially when she, how you give your, you gave your statement months before, sometimes even years before you eventually go to court.
Yep.
She gave her statement about this certain incident in March 2013, and it was the one incident, she said. And she knows it was the one incident on the 8th of March because it was so traumatizing that she would never forget about it, and it really stands out to her. When Johnny and his team found evidence to contradict what she said, really cold hard evidence, I believe it was photographic evidence, she then, in the middle of the trial, she and her sister amend their evidence. They amend their witness statement, and they say, actually, it was multiple events in March. We just got it mixed up.
I'm boiling just hearing this.
Wait, that's not it. Judge Mr. Justice Nicol buys that. Even though Johnny's team very aptly point out, they're literally making it up as they go along in the middle of the trial. The judge goes, no, it's very plausible that she was highly traumatized and she just couldn't remember. The Court of Appeal stood behind him on that.
I would say it's very plausible that Judge Nichols is compromised and should have his entire retirement fund revoked. He should have his pension. Send it back, because honestly, if a 5-year-old could see why that was corrupt.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It's one of the worst judgments in recent times.
And now the Court of Appeal is backing him up. That's my problem.
I feel like the Court of Appeals just doesn't want to do anything. I feel like to them, it's just, oh, okay, well, it's a newspaper, and it's a newspaper that we happen to have friends in. And again, allegedly.
Let me be fair. Let me explain generally how the Court of Appeal handles appeals. So basically, they don't like to interfere with findings of fact. So if a trial judge, finds that something did happen, they don't like to interfere with that. What they like to interfere with, or what they're comfortable interfering with, is errors of law. So when a judge misapplies a law to the facts. So what they're saying here is, what Johnny's asking them to do is find that the judge made errors of fact. So he made mistakes in the fact-finding phase, which is true. He did. Entirely so. And again, Zach's not very clued in on this, but he basically took her for her word, ignored all the supporting evidence against her. Almost all of it.
Almost as if his mind was already made up. Suspicious.
That's exactly how it came across.
Yeah, that's very suspicious. I mean, what is... I hope someone who is... maybe you can even help me with this. What is the procedure for resigning a judge when he crosses the line like this?
Oh, well, I was asked that question. It's actually... they have to be disciplined, and it has to be quite serious.
Oh, they get warnings.
I suppose. They're very self-managed. So judges manage each other. And that's the number one recipe for corruption.
I mean, you might as well let toddlers manage each other in a preschool. What's the difference?
Well, isn't it like the aviation the aviation industry? I remember us watching this recently. They were deregulated, and suddenly that's when the prices went up and the economy became smaller and smaller. And
I've got another example, actually. How about the ESRB that's in charge of... in charge of regulating the video games industry and ratings board, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't want any violence in certain video games, and they don't want anything sexual or anything like that. Mm. But the moment it's gambling and it can make them money, and that is something where the ESRB is, I believe, again, someone please correct me if I've got this wrong, but it's almost like the games industry regulating themselves. And so the argument has been, amongst those who actually want the right thing and don't want children gambling in sports games, the argument has been, if we don't pull our act in and regulate ourselves properly, the government will step in. And now we've seen that. We're seeing governments all around the world step in and go, that's okay, Electronic Arts. If you want to have gambling in your games, we're going to classify them as gambling. And when you fight back, we're going to pass laws to include that as gambling. I think Belgium was one of the first. But that's just it. Self-regulation doesn't work in most industries. So why would the highest of industries have that?
Yeah, it's a problem. So I'm glad you brought it up, because it's a very common question, and I know not everyone remembers everything I say in my videos, but they are pretty much self-regulated. And what else was I going to say? What were we talking about anyway? The inconsistency, and all that. So I was explaining why the Court of Appeal is being very reluctant to overturn this, and they're using the general notion, which is true, that courts of appeal don't like to overturn findings of fact. But as I demonstrated in a video last year using an example of the Serafin case, the Polish man, they do interfere in exceptional circumstances. And this, to me, till this very day, I believe is an exceptional circumstance. How can you have... So there were DV police officers who came on the scene. They reported to the building that Johnny and Amber used to live in. She didn't even call them. One of her friends did. And they testified multiple times since 2016, including in the trial, that she was completely injury-free. Nothing was broken in the house, as she alleged, because she alleged he destroyed everything, including her face. And they stuck to their guns, and their testimony never changed. They're removed from, they're objectively removed. They're not biased. They don't know either party. I mean, of course, they know Johnny Depp, but
T's crossed, I's dotted, everything's the way it should be.
Well, when they showed up, they didn't know who she was. Yeah. They were actually very honest, and they still, they're like, we don't know who Amber Heard is. So they didn't know that she was Johnny's wife simply because they didn't know her.
I didn't know who she was until this case came around.
A lot of people say that about her and about Meghan Markle, and I don't necessarily see that as a fair thing to say because no one knows us. We're not... Being famous doesn't make you more important than anyone else.
Oh no, I'm more saying that because that is something I imagine she wouldn't like to hear. But
absolutely, yeah, that's a fair point. But just generally, I'm sure even you agree. We don't condone famous people are more valuable. It's just a fact. She is nowhere near Johnny's caliber.
No, of course.
So they didn't even know who she was. Point being, they had no reason to cover for Johnny. They didn't even know he was involved. They just said there was nothing on her face, nothing wrong with the apartment. And the judge said, not gonna believe you, gonna believe Amber.
But Judge Nichols already had that boost to his retirement fund, allegedly, so it didn't matter. That's the problem. Once a judge has made their mind up, they will start ignoring evidence. They will start ignoring the facts. I mean, this is just how it works. And obviously money under the table, allegedly, is something that they'll take in. Because the more we talk about this, the more I go, okay, so who's pulling the strings? It's not the courts. Who controls the courts? Who is, well, I mean, again, if only we had real investigative journalists who would look into this stuff, because I feel like the world is lacking that. We have pretended journalists who have been famously called urinalists, who want to report on the latest fad diet. But then the second something real happens, no, we wouldn't want the public to panic and outcry. Well, I don't know. I think the event of the internet and the fact that we have a freedom of information, which is, the media's worst nightmare come to fruition, I think that, people can handle reality.
Oh, it's their worst nightmare when it works against them. They're actually proponents of freedom of information, the media. When they want to out a company, when they want to out a person, you know what I mean? But when it's against them, of course, they're not going to like that.
It's freedom of information so long as they can control the information, which isn't freedom of information.
Actually, that sounds a lot like Meghan Markle. But that's for another time.
At this rate, it's going to be another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to try to limit these to an hour, some leeway, but we don't want to get over the hour and a half mark as far as we can help it. If you guys like this, because we don't even know if this is going to take off anytime soon, but if it's successful and if you like it, it will be more lax with the timing, and we'll also try doing it live. That will be more of a problem because of where we live. And the vast majority of my audience is actually in the United States.
Yeah.
So there is a time issue, but I would love to do this live so we can talk to you in the chat and respond to your questions live immediately.
When is, say, New York time anyway? How far away are they from us?
It's 18 hours behind or something. It's pretty intense. It's almost the whole day.
Is it there's a day.
But that's New York, and then there's LA, which is less of a difference, but still a difference.
Put a time zone in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from, even if you don't want to say exactly where you're from, so maybe we can make a chart, figure out the best time to stream.
That's a good idea, but also YouTube analytics is quite handy with that, and the bar for my US viewers is, and I get maybe 2% from Australia. Where are you, by the way? It's where are the fellow Australians? But anyways, we will try our best. If it means staying up later at night, tell them what time I'm gone.
Okay, so Pluto's famous time for bedtime, it's as if up until 9:59, alert, awake, let's go on an adventure, ready to go anywhere. I mean, last night even you were like,
yeah,
hey, let's go out. I'm like, we've been out all day, I just want to play a game at home, being boring me. And then as soon as 10 o'clock hits, it might as well be 12 o'clock for Cinderella.
I'm gone. I'm just gone like a light.
That's it.
That's the hardest part about army training when I was sleep deprived. That was the hardest part. Starvation, give it to me. 24-hour days, give it to, that flies in the face of not enough sleep. 18-hour days, give it to me. You take away my sleep and I'm just gone. Like, I lose my mind. I've always been like this. When I was in school, in high school, my friends would make fun of me if I was up. Remember the Windows Live or MSN Messenger days?
MSN, no, those were the days.
If I was ever up past 10 and I was chatting with my friends, like, isn't that past your bedtime? So, yeah, I don't even know why we started talking about this.
Because we're talking about live streaming.
That's true. I did stay up for the live stream, the one live stream that I did. That was really fun and the time really flew by. And even though my eyes were starting to get, dry and really groggy and stuff, it was still quite enjoyable. So
to be fair, sorry to cut you off, that particular day, because that was the day of Johnny's judgment, yes, you probably wouldn't have been able to sleep that night either. So.
Well, no, but I was getting sleepy on the podcast.
It's a good thing that you had someone to discuss that with. And,
yeah. But all this to say, if there is enough interest, which I guess I will garner from the number of likes we get on this podcast and the views, then we will be more than happy. Well, I'll speak for myself. I mean, he's a night owl, but I will be more than happy to stay up. Because I do stay up for things that matter. I stayed up for the appeal hearing. That was all the way past midnight. So when things matter, I'm there. But...
And you matter.
Yeah, of course. We wouldn't even be doing this without my subscriber base. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for the support. I always thank you guys, but it means so much to me. But yeah, so let us know, and I'll stay up if need be. On
that note, one of my favorite things about when you release a new video is that I'll wait about 24 hours, and then I'll just do a brief scroll through the comments just in case there's anything that you haven't seen, because 4 eyes better than 2. And the amount of positive comments you get, I mean, it makes me, not that I'm not already proud of you, but just seeing how many people love you and see how, they also see similar things than what I see, than what I think is incredible. And I know that this is a compliment and you're feeling very awkward right now, but...
Stop!
the sweet comments, I mean, they're not even about me and they make my day. You know what I mean?
They are very sweet. They're very sweet. I do this strategy where I look at comments... sometimes immediately, but then also I give them time because I know the really bad ones get filtered because you guys are so awesome and you downvote them. So you actually single-handedly saved me from seeing the really vicious and vile comments. I used to catch them early in the day because I didn't have that big of a subscriber base. I still don't. I'm a baby channel, but in comparison, and thanks to you, you're actually shielding me from, reading all those vile comments that people just love to leave on my videos. So the support, it is not going unnoticed, and it's the only reason that I'm still even doing this, because I think you can all garner how private I am and how I'm not, I don't buy into the drama or anything. So anytime something comes up, like the article that was released where I was unfortunately fooled into being a part of, my first thought is I want to get out of social media. I mean, again, Zach will tell you, I'll just go straight to him and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he'll be like, why? And then I'll tell him the reason. He's like, just power through it. So it's your support that keeps me powering through it. It's your support that has brought me back to Twitter, because you all know I quit for over a month. But it's really difficult to just ignore the fact that all of you value the input, and it matters so much. So thank you so much. I want to touch on a couple more things. I'm not gonna focus too much on it. We have a little timer, but we started it late because this is our first time and we don't know what we're doing, so it's not exactly accurate, so we still have some time. I want to touch on maybe 1 or 2 things on the case with Johnny's appeal before we talk maybe a little bit about Zach's situation. Maybe also I should get you a napkin because your lips are blue. I'm gonna get him a napkin. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I'm not used to showing off.
So I think there's something else that we can talk about. We'll get back because if this continues going, then obviously, and depending on how many people are interested in my case, but there's something else that happened recently we should talk about after this.
I can talk about that. I just want to also make it very clear why I sometimes keep going back to Zach's case, because if it was not for that case, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. That case single-handedly drove me into making videos. The first video that I made was completely because of that case. It's called Dear Men, an Apology. And I was still dressed in my basically, I guess, work clothes. I had come home from the police station that day with Zach, very disenchanted, and I made that video just to vent. So, and then I came across Johnny's case completely by happenstance. I didn't even look for it. It just came to me from Brian's channel, Incredibly Average. Shout out to Brian. He's incredible. Well, you are not incredibly average. And that's kind of why I talk about your case, because it is the main link that brought me to YouTube.
If it wasn't for the way things conspired, then we wouldn't be sitting here today talking to a wonderful audience who appreciate all the work you do.
Basically, if we got our way and we won, or I should say you, because I was not a party to the case. If Zach got his way and justice was served, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. I probably wouldn't even have come across Johnny's case, by the way. So
because spoiler alert, male victims are underrepresented in Australia as well, almost like our papa country, the UK.
And one more point about the appeal that I will talk about. And don't forget, I will be making a comprehensive video in my usual format, which will be out at some point next week.
She can't rush them. She puts a lot of work into them, like hours and hours that she wouldn't otherwise admit. And so I'm here to tell you that if a video takes a little bit longer to come out, it's because she's a perfectionist.
I'm not a perfectionist.
Well, okay, I mean that in an endearing term.
I'm really not. I'm not. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can bleep that out then. You are, I guess, good at quality assurance.
Fair enough.
What's a way I can say?
No, fair enough. I'm really not a perfectionist. It's funny. You're more he's OCD. I'm not. There's a point where I know I can step back and go, okay, this is as good as it's gonna get. It's gonna go out now.
Meanwhile, I spend way too long trying to make these microphones symmetrical on the table.
Yeah. So he's the crazy person here. Anyways. Another final point I want to talk about is how the Court of Appeals said that Amber Heard's credibility was a marginal issue. And Mr. Justice Nicol focused on contemporaneous evidence to make his findings, not her credibility. So basically, he found for NGN because he focused on the evidence, not whether she was a credible person or not. Which is ludicrous to me as a lawyer, because this is the same judge who said, I will believe her because she is giving testimony under oath. So now they're saying, oh no, but her credibility doesn't even matter, because this is in relation to, so they had an application to appeal, and then Johnny also wanted to apply to introduce new evidence, which is very rare in appeal cases, which we talked about because we also appealed.
Yeah.
So his new evidence was she lied about donating to charity. I think I've told you about this. And she said, I donated $7 million. He paid her $7 million in a divorce settlement. And she has maintained for 4 years that she donated every single cent already. And then they got pure, cold, hard evidence that she didn't.
That doesn't surprise me at all, because I doubt that the royalties from what little movies she's been in, the only movie I can pull at the top of my head is Aquaman, and I'm not watching that for obvious reasons now. So, but it's like, no, she's not she's not of the same status as Johnny. She doesn't, like, 7 million isn't just chump change for her. So, you know, especially if, I mean, because I'm hoping there are some decent movie studios out there that will look at this, have been following this, and be like, you know what, I don't really want to hire her anymore.
I hope so.
I hope so. And if that's the case, then, and if she knows that her reputation's tarnished, regardless of what Judge Nichols thinks, then she'll be penny pinching to the day she dies if she continues this way. So there's no way she was giving that money to charity, especially if she was. Yeah, no way.
It's proof, and so that's why Johnny wanted to introduce this evidence for two reasons. Number one, because Mr. Justice Nicol expressly alluded to it. He mentioned it as a counter argument to Johnny's argument that she's a gold digger. So he said, "How can she be a gold digger? She donated money." So he doesn't really laugh like that. That was a weird sound that he produced.
I'm sorry, I just. It was an adverse reaction to absolute and utter bullshit.
Yeah.
Gosh.
But the second reason, of course, her credibility. Hey, look, she's a liar. Don't believe her. If she lied about this, what else could she be lying about? So that's why they said, yeah, but her credibility doesn't matter. The evidence proves that NGN published allegations that were substantially true. It's not Amber Heard's credibility that proved it. It's the evidence.
And there's Judge Nichols counting his cash like, I'm sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. You're going to hear more of this in a more analytical way, but it's just ludicrous. I sat there once again just going, I mean, is it any wonder I never wanted to be a lawyer? Is it any wonder that I'm branching out and I joined the military to run away from this profession? It is corrupt AF.
So what can a man do if he wants to defend himself in this situation in the future? Because this is sending a message to all men. You will not be heard.
Yeah.
So what does a man do? Because we're moving away from a place where DV is normed. There was a time when that was the norm.
Yeah, absolutely.
We still have a few cases of it here.
Well, in some areas of the world, third world countries,
absolutely.
It is the norm.
Yeah, and we still have, I believe, well, I won't specify exactly where because I don't remember the exact statistics, but there are parts of the country which DV is still a normal thing. And you will find advertisements for that everywhere. But if we want to move away from DV, then we need to make sure that men are heard. So if men aren't heard and they can't defend themselves, basically are we telling men that you have to sit there and take it?
And the problem is, like, even you brought up those DV ads, which I know exactly what he's talking about. They're on the bus stops and everything, and it's always a woman who's the victim.
Yep.
Always. That's just how it's portrayed.
Yep.
And now people might come back at me and say, oh yeah, because women are I guess there are more female victims than men. I'm not going to dispute that. And you would be
right. That's
I'm not
true.
going to dispute that. However, I will also make note, and this is backed up by the police officers that we dealt with for Zach's case, men don't come forward to complain about being victims. They feel ashamed. They feel as though they're emasculated by being taken over and mistreated in that way physically by a woman. So they don't even report. So even if you look at statistics, they're not accurate because men are not speaking up. And Johnny is one of those men because guess what? Why didn't he go to the police every time she laid a finger on him? He would have had proof, a timeline, a chronology of all the reports he would have put in. They probably would have taken photographs. You guys know how his bodyguards would routinely take photographs. He has physical photographic evidence of his bruises.
Yeah, but he's a man, so it doesn't matter. He should have bruises because he has something between his legs.
But he didn't go to the police. That's the problem. And the judge is like, yeah, well, your bodyguards took those photos. You know, basically implying that he didn't imply. Sorry, he basically said flat out, Mr. Justice Nicol, that Johnny's staff are loyal to him and they would condone him mistreating his wife like that.
That's what it was. Allegedly. So I'll say allegedly as much as you want, but at the end of the day,
you don't have to say allegedly. Like it's something lay people say a lot. YouTubers say it a lot.
I have no evidence, but is it not obvious? I'm sure it's obvious to every one of your viewers to ignore such astounding pieces of evidence, and just because he's a man. But his mistake was not, what I'm trying to say is men have to come forward. You have to stop being ashamed. If
a woman, your partner, your sister, your best friend, I don't know what the nature, and usually it's partners, let's face it.
Even your own mother. It doesn't matter who it is.
If you are being mistreated, and you know exactly what I mean by that word, it's a euphemism, you have to come forward, because that is the only way this will change. People need to stop saying men are rarely victimized in that way. This never happens to men. It overwhelmingly happens to women. It does happen to men way more than any of us think. Guess what? When we met, we were very young. We're still young, but we were like barely adults in our very early 20s. And I didn't ever even think about the notion that a man can be victimized by a woman. It never even occurred to me that it was a possibility. And I don't know if it's because I grew up with, I have two brothers who I love to death, and they're so strong. And then I went to the army, and I'm surrounded by these strong men, and it just always reinforced this notion that, men are impenetrable, which is wrong. But I was a kid, and when I met Zach, still relatively very young kids, not children, mind you. We're not high school. We're not high school sweethearts. I'm talking very early 20s. He opened up my eyes to it, not knowing. He just told me his experience. Your intention wasn't to educate me.
No.
He was literally just telling me what happened.
I felt that I wanted to tell you, the crucial bits of my life. And I actually didn't tell you at first, because I didn't want to be like, hi, my name's Zach. I've been a victim of SA.
That's what I want to say. He wouldn't have told me. He was ashamed. I don't know if you were ashamed. He didn't tell me. He only told me when he stormed off when his roommate brought up her name, because he has PTSD. When anyone says her name, this woman, the defendant in our case, he has such a guttural negative reaction. And I remember being so shocked, by the way, because he just walked off, he stormed off, and he slammed the door to his bedroom. And I was very taken aback, because I was like, what, all this because of some unrequited crush this woman has on you? I thought it was an unrequited crush.
Oh, and let's not forget that, not only were my roommates at the time more than happy to talk about something that I found traumatic, one of those roommates being the same person who told me it was also my fault that I experienced SA, but also the same people who would openly let her into the house, where she would sit at the lounges across from my bedroom door, hoping I would come out, and I would have to lock myself up in my room for long periods of time because I didn't even want to see her face.
Yeah, and by the way, this is all backed up by people who were her best friends at the time. Now she is a danger to society, so they've basically, through their own experiences with her, have cut her off, and they're, we're friends with them now, and they've told us how she would say, I'm going to go sit there until I can see him. So this is not just his understanding of what was going on. We have the backstory where she would announce, I'm going to go and hopefully I'll catch a glimpse of him. And then when it didn't happen, she'd come home or call up her friend and say, oh my God, he's blocking me out. He won't let me in. So, and again, for context, they never dated. They were never together. So it is different from Johnny and Amber in that way. He never let her in. So it was this obsessed, unrequited love, stalkerish kind of case going on. So anyways, all this to say, you didn't even tell me until I came after him. I went to the bedroom, knocked on the door, and I was like, what's wrong with you? What? They were just telling me about this stupid chick who has a stupid crush on you. And then he said, you don't even know the half of it. And he was I remember you were very reluctant to tell me. It wasn't like he just sat there and told me. It was like, it was painful. I kept trying to get information out of him. And then what? And then what? What do you mean? And he would just pause, and he looked like he was going to be sick. Because I feel like that was the first time you ever had to relive it. It was like less than a year since it happened, but was that the first time you had to relive it?
Yeah, pretty much. Because I remember I would have told my childhood best friend, who I see, I'm not sure if he's happy with me sharing his name on camera, so I won't say his name. We'll keep it. But I probably would have told him as well.
He was there for one of the incidents.
He was there for one of the incidents. That's right. There are multiple incidents. And he... there was also, the one 13 years my senior who was...
You told him immediately, though.
I told him
I'm talking,
immediately.
like, reliving it later.
Reliving it? Yeah, it was the first time I would have told those two almost immediately after.
Yeah.
And it was the first time because that's the way I felt as a man, that, okay, there's no one who will help me with this. I have to bury it. And so I buried it as deep as I could. But how do you bury it when people keep shoving it in your face, when people keep allowing that person to stalk you?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. The group of friends I had at the time allowed her to continue stalking. They turned a blind eye. They pretended it wasn't happening because she's a woman, so she can get away with whatever she wants.
I mean, there was, like, the straw that broke the camel's back was her sniffing Zach's mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard us right. So he wasn't home. You were at work. You want to tell the story?
I came home from work and I found a letter.
This was before my time. We didn't know each other.
I came home from work and I found a letter on the coffee table out the front of, there was a lounge room out the front of my bedroom. There were two lounge rooms, by the way, in case anyone's like, well, was that where everyone was hanging out? No. People hung out in the second lounge room and the backyard. So if she was stalking me in the front of my bedroom, it was the empty room.
I can vouch for that. By the time I came into the picture, no one hung out in that front living room. They call it a lounge room. It was always, everything was happening in the back, and him and I would play Halo in the front. And no one ever used it. It's not like they didn't use the room because we were playing Halo. It was just ignored. It was all of your furniture and your TV anyway. So there was no reason for her to be there.
So when I came home, there was the letter on that coffee table, and I noticed it had a pubic hair on it. What looks like a pubic hair. I was baffled. I was like, hey, roommates, why is there a hair on this? And anyway, they came over and proceeded to tell me the story about how they let the stalker into the house while I wasn't there, apparently to hang out with them, but instead the stalker decided to see the letter for me on the table and sniff it. A letter I haven't even touched yet. So she decided to sniff it.
Wasn't she inhaling it?
Inhaling.
Yeah. It was described to me by the roommate who caught her, and he said she was just inhaling it like for dear life.
And so he saw that, grabbed the envelope, and shoved it down the back of his pants. And
so he wiped his ass with it.
Basically, and said, here, you want to smell it? I'll give you something to smell. And he
said, get out.
Get out. As well as one of the other roommates there who witnessed at least the argument. And so that's what it took for her to be removed from the house. And then she was kind of allowed a few months later.
Let's be fair. I believe she was permanently banned from the house up until that point.
Yeah.
From that point. I do believe that was it for the roommates. That's when they saw the crazy, which I wasn't there, so I can't say whether it's fair for them to see the crazy then and not before.
They saw it. It was it was tucked under the rug because she's a woman and she can get away with whatever she wants.
I mean, at one point, right after Zach's court case, when he took her to court, we went to that roommate to tell him what happened, and he said, at one point, we all told her to get help, therapy, counseling, or we'll all just stop talking to her. That's how bad it was. She is very mentally ill, but not in a way where she's not held responsible for her actions. No, it's we have a couple of psychologists, and both of them agree on a borderline personality disorder diagnosis with hints of narcissism and even antisocial, which is psychopath. But we're not psychologists. I'm basing this off professional assessments. So it's because everyone's been asked, even the police officers, finally, when she came after us this time in 2019 and he finally went to the police, they of course asked him, why didn't you come way back when the SA happened? And your response was?
Well, I was told it was my fault. And so
he was very young, and he went to someone much older. We're talking again 13, 14 years for guidance. And he told him, this was all on you. You're the idiot. You put yourself in that situation. And being so young and being told that, and of course, was there that general belief of, I'm a man, no one's going to believe me?
Well, it's kind of ingrained It's always that matter of people won't think that everyone was so concerned with burying all of her misdeeds that it was that feeling of not a single of one of these people would back me up.
She was surrounded by enablers. These people like her, those narcissists, they surround themselves with yes people. People who will do their bidding. People who will enable them. I don't have to explain what enabling is. And Zach was the only person who didn't give her what she wanted, and it drove her crazy.
That's what did it. I would say this. I have this scenario in my head. I've been thinking about it for a while, of another man in my situation. Let's pretend that he, like you, goes to the gym every day, and let's pretend that he builds massive muscle. So he's like a muscly guy. He's not quite Arnold Schwarzenegger, but almost there. And let's say he has a girlfriend, and she's quite short and, quite, let's just say, anorexic.
Okay.
Because that seems to be the popular thing these days.
Very thin.
So then let's say they're in an argument and she starts hitting him. Now, she, hits him pretty hard and continues to hit him, and she's not slapping him. Let's pretend that she's, let's pretend it's...
She's going at him.
Let's pretend it's DV.
DV, a full-on.
And then let's pretend, because this is
slapping is also DV, but I get what you're saying. It's like a high level.
This is a cliche that is a cliche for a reason. Let's pretend that she also destroys all of his stuff. Let's pretend that she destroys his TV and just breaks all of his stuff.
Vandalizes his car. That's a very common one.
Let's pretend she does all of that, and this guy, all he can do is sit there and let it happen. He wouldn't dare lay a finger on her, because if he does that, then suddenly everything she does is forgiven.
And you're not condoning him hitting her back. It's even pinning her down, like, stop. Because even that's enough for a woman to go off to the police and say, he laid a finger on me.
Remember, he's
self-defense.
He's naturally strong. She's naturally weak. Well, I wouldn't say naturally, but she hasn't built an inch of muscle in her entire life. And so she will bruise, even if let's say she bruises easily. One touch, and that's it. She'll run to the police, and the police will believe everything she says. And
yep.
So what do? You take matters into your own hands, and you're guilty. 2, you go to the police and have it thrown out in court, regardless of the fact that you have a vandalized car, TV, and all of that evidence. Or 3, you sit there and take it and just go, well, I can't do anything.
By the way, this is purely hypothetical. His property was not damaged.
No, of course not. Yeah. I've never dated anyone.
And they were not dating. They were not dating.
Well,
and that is actually the crux of her problem. That's what drove her insane. Please date me for 1 month so I can get you out of my system.
Oh my gosh.
Quote the defendant.
Yeah. Yeah, that. Anyway, so that complete hypothetical situation. How does a man resolve this? He is super macho. He is super muscly. He even has a really deep voice. How does he defend himself against someone? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how tall or short, how wide or thin you are, everyone's capable of damage.
And the problem is, if they're in a relationship, you presume he has nowhere else to go. Let's say he walks out, because Johnny would leave all the time. And that was her complaint. Like, stop splitting. She'd call it splitting. She never said stop hitting, stop splitting.
No.
And he still got this outcome that we're discussing here today, because he left. So even if a man leaves, like Johnny has, somehow he's still implicated.
Yep.
It's like there is no way out. And that's why this isn't even about this is happening to people I love and that's why I care. It's just wrong. It took someone I love for it to open my, to open my eyes to the situation. But now that I know it's a reality that men suffer all over the world from this concept of they are always, they can never be victims. Now that I know this is a problem that exists, it's not just about, oh, I have brothers I love, I have, a partner I love. No, it's for all men. This is wrong. And I said in my Dear Men video that we live in a man's world, which I said from my perspective. I'm not saying that's a true viewpoint of the world. I do see that the world is more, I don't want to get political, but there is kind of a patriarchal structure, but that doesn't mean that men have it all. I don't want my words to be misinterpreted as she says we live in a man's world, therefore it's all going to go a man's way. I have been very much influenced by my profession in the military, where there is sexism. It's very real in the sense that women are viewed as weaker, and if we're injured, they think we're faking it, and if we're injured, they kick us out, whereas they hold on to the men. So I think I even came at it from that point of view, where it's a man's world, because honestly, I work in a man's world. But that is not to say that men have it all. I just wanted to make that clear.
If we're going to strive for inequality in this world, because one thing that I'm sure most people can agree on is that women's rights is something that's important and something that we should all be striving for. But if we're going to strive for that inequality, I know that...
You're going to strive for equality.
If we're going to strive for that equality, then it should be equality. It shouldn't be to put women above men.
Yes.
It should be to draw it down the line. So if you come at us with, say, the pay gap, right, then we should be doing something about that.
It's a fair enough concern.
And it's a fair enough concern.
Yeah.
Then when I turn it around and say, well, men suffer from DV and SA from the hands of women.
They deserve protection just as much as women do.
And the thing is that whichever side of the cause you fall on, whether you're a man or a woman, it should be the case that, and it probably would be the case that, let's say that we fix the pay gap tomorrow, right? And it didn't harm any man in any way, shape or form. I think that us striving for that equality would actually inspire some women to go, okay, well, let's continue along the lines of equality. And then when equality isn't shown the other way around, they would fight for it. So I don't even think we should be picking sides. I think that there should be a consensus of equality, and that we shouldn't be going, okay, but it's only women's rights. It's not. It's inequality on both sides. It's human rights. We are humans at the end of the day, because if we're going to fight over gender, then what's to stop us from fighting over race? And if we're going to fight over race, then what's to stop us from fighting over something more stupid? I mean, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but there are parts of the world where they fight over shades of skin, not even entire colors of skin.
Yeah.
If we want to progress as a society, we need to recognize the inequality on both sides and take action against it. I'm not sure what that action is, but it's something that we should be discussing instead of going, well, it's only this side and we only need to fight for this side. I
100% agree. It's all about finding where the gaps are, where things aren't being addressed, regardless of gender, and fix them. So fix areas where women aren't being treated fairly and equally, and fix areas where men aren't being treated fairly and equally. And the number one area is the justice system. It is letting down men every single day, and I have one sitting here, flesh and blood, talking to you guys. So it's not even just some, distant celebrity or some person you hear about in the news. Living and breathing example of how it's been almost a decade. He was actually a kid when he met this girl, and it's been almost 10 years that we're still suffering from her stalking us, by the way. But of course it's online now because, taking her to court and getting a restraining order against her and having the police knock on her door once every fortnight to check that she was abiding by it. That obviously had, some kind of effect on her. But the online stalking just yesterday, it's still happening. And I've been dragged into it. I don't even know this chick. If were it not for being with Zach, I would never have come across her. We lived in entirely separate spheres of the world. I'm not even talking just geographically, we would never have crossed paths. We're the same age, but we would never have known each other. And now I'm a victim of her as well. I have to put up with her, making me incredibly uncomfortable. I don't feel safe. Do you feel safe?
I never felt safe, because I know that if she does something, that there will be people running to her defense. Not because they know she's right, but just because, I knew her when I was in school. No, she's a woman, so, I had...
He lost friends. I witnessed this. He lost friends because they said you didn't have to go to the police. You've gone over the line, dude. Don't go to the police. Why'd you involve the police?
And you know what? I am better off for having those people out of my life, because they weren't my friends. They didn't care for my safety or well-being. I was just I don't know, what was I to them? What if I wasn't benefiting them? Because that's all that a relationship with a female was to them, a potential lay, and that's it. Oh, okay, well, how dare you ruin my potential lay? Is that why they maybe sided with her? I don't know, and I'll never know, and I don't want to know, but I know they're not my friends, and that's all I need to know.
No, good riddance. And let us know if you want to. I mean, honestly, I do, because it's the case that started everything for me. I think I am gonna share it in more detail with everyone. I don't necessarily want to put it up for let us know if you're interested, because it's so important to link to, I guess, establish kind of this journey map to how I got to Johnny. Because honestly, if it wasn't for this experience, it never would have happened. And then also, Zach's going to be my co-host in this podcast for the foreseeable future, and it's an integral part. It's something that happened to him, and then when I came into the picture, when we met, it happened to us. And most importantly, I have a list of tips and advice for everyone from a legal standpoint and also from just a behavioral standpoint. Don't commit the mistakes we did, because at the end of the day, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I did dabble in this case. I was very heavily involved, and it was a learning experience for me. Absolutely. I'm still very early in my career, but this case taught me far more than I learned in law school. And I have so many tips and advice, not just for men, but for anyone out there. If you're ever victimized by someone, what you should do from the very beginning to avoid the outcome that we've had. Because I really don't want this happening to anyone else out there.
I think that it's the most important thing is that out of this, we have spread awareness for not only, us in understanding what happened with Johnny's case, but for all of you, because now the people watching this and the people that watch Pluto's videos, it is so weird not referring to you as your name.
He doesn't call me Pluto in real life.
It's really weird to, sorry, no, what was I saying? I wasn't saying it. No, I was saying that was weird. We are not just a presenter and an audience. We are a community of people who are aware of an issue, and just because we don't know what we can do to fix this doesn't mean that we can't figure it out together. We've got, so much covered in, you've been at this for
almost a year.
But I think that when the next case comes up, because there'll be another one. There'll be another woman who thinks she's going to drag a guy through the mud simply because she doesn't have something between her legs. And there will be this community and other communities and other supporters who think to themselves, I don't want to see this again. And we can not only spread the awareness, maybe we can even reach them, but amongst our communities, our friends. Because even just the other day, I had someone posting about DV and SA in favor of females, and he was a guy, and he thought he was doing the right thing.
What do you mean in favor of females?
Basically saying, guy, check your friends or something like that.
Fair enough.
Basically check
it's that toxic masculinity thing.
Yeah, which, again, it's an issue that needs to be solved, but
females should be told the same thing.
Females should be told, it's just
check
not about
friends.
men. It's not, it's about both.
Yeah, it's about humans.
Because
we're flawed, we're animals, and some of us have urges and instincts that we should not be acting on, and it has nothing to do with your gender. This again is living proof.
It's not enough to go, let's assume, again, I'm hypothetical statistic, let's assume 1 in 10 SAs were women, right, against adult men, because obviously pedophiles are a different can of worms. If we said 1 in 10 people in the world die of starvation, are we going to just settle for that, or do we go, that's not right, we need to do something about that? Because I think the only acceptable statistic is 0.
Yeah.
0%. 0 out of 10. Mm-hmm. And until we've reached that, or at least reached a maintainable number where we can keep getting lower and have targets projected to stop this from happening by spreading awareness amongst our communities, until we've reached that, there's always something we can do. There's always, we're doing our part here, almost. Pluto, with with her channel and whatever I can do to help her channel, and also, being on this podcast to spread that awareness, also to have a good time and to have fun, even though the mood's been a bit somber because of the topic. But everyone can do something, and even if you haven't figured it out, try and figure it out. You don't have to do it right now, but there's something that all of us can do to stop someone from being mistreated in some way, shape, or form in the future. So, if we're going to check our mates, why don't we check our lady friends? Check our girls, as, you would say.
Yeah.
Because the people we think are capable of these things and the people that are, not everyone's a great judge of character. Mm-hmm. We should assume anyone can do anything.
Well, a couple of years ago, we were driving past and we saw his stalker on the street, and he said, if you look at her, you would never think that much evil can exist in that vessel.
Yeah.
I don't even want to call her human because she's reptilian.
Doesn't feel that way at all. Yeah.
So it's. I remember him saying that. It's just this disarming. It's a small, fragile woman, I suppose, that people just cannot fathom the evil, the pure predatory evil that can come out of someone like that.
People live their entire lives like that. They're just trying to take advantage of other people, and unfortunately, naive people like me who just want to kind of live their lives, and
you see the good in everyone.
That was the problem. And sometimes I would put good in there that wasn't there. I would be like, yeah, but they've got this and this is a good enough quality. And it was always trying to see, because I would hope that people do the same for me, but that's not how the world is. And that's the sort of people that these predators target. People who, we call it naive, but unfortunately it's just, you want to see good in the world. Everyone naturally wants to see something good in the world, because if all we saw was misery, then what's the point of being here? So, it's tough. It really is.
All right. I think we're going to start wrapping it up because of the time.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, yesterday I got some good news.
Oh, yes.
That I did share on Twitter as well, which is Michael Jackson's nephew, Taj Jackson, actually talked about me briefly in a in a live stream on the 23rd of March. He brought me up. I thought someone asked him about me. He said, oh yeah, I know about her. But he actually brought me up off his own accord and talked about the videos I've made about Michael with the Chandler accusations. And he said the most beautiful words, and it really touched me because it was coming straight from Michael's family. And I could never in a million years have ever contemplated getting that kind of acknowledgement and, telling people to go support me and encourage. He's so supportive, and he said I inspired him. Just to hear Michael Jackson's nephew say that, I can't even put into words. And you all know, I know not all of you agree with me, I've actually lost a couple of patrons over my support of Michael. I wholeheartedly, 100%, irrefutably believe in his innocence. And so to hear that from his nephew was a very big deal to me. And I thought I'd try to end this on a lighter note because it made my day. And getting that sort of acknowledgement is also another thing that would keep me going, because I did get a lot of hate. And Taj mentioned that in his live stream. It's anyone who stands up for Michael puts themselves in the line of fire. And I will do that gladly for anyone, not just Michael. So thank you, Taj. Thank you for everyone who's subscribed to me or found me through Taj, and I'm so honored. So that's it, I think.
I think that'll do for this time, and
so we're gonna try to make this is a weekly thing.
We will try and do this weekly.
We're gonna commit to a weekly schedule.
Do you think you can fit me in like this time every week? Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Weekly schedule. I hope you guys like this more relaxed kind of setup. And I hope you feel as though you were sitting right here with us. And we'll talk soon.
Cool. See you next time.
Bye.